We will begin with derivatives today. Usually, how I take up this subject is, usually I complete portfolios, then mutual funds, then I go to capital budgeting, leasing, and then only I come down to derivatives. But students find derivatives and forex more difficult than capital budgeting and leasing, because you have already studied capital budgeting in your intermediate level. So generally, students feel capital budgeting and leasing can be taken up later at a later time. Derivatives and forex is more critical and crucial compared to capital budgeting and leasing. So I have swapped the order of taking the chapter. Today we will do derivatives. Okay. So under derivatives, you have futures, options, swap. So what is this derivatives? Derivatives is a contract which is entered between two parties. Derivatives is a contract entered between two parties. Entered between two parties. The value of the contract is derived based on the underlying asset. Is derived based on the underlying asset. It is usually the stock. Okay. So if I am entering a contract with you and me, if there is a contract between you and me, it should be for some value. Correct? You are going to give me 1 crore or I am going to give you 1 crore. There should be some value. But at the time of signing the contract, we do not have any value assigned to the contract. Okay. The value is derived by the movement of price of the stock. Is a contract entered between two parties. When is the contract entered? The contract is entered now to be exercised at a future date. To be exercised at a future date. So, just to give you an example, to be exercised at a future date. Okay, just to give you an example, if I enter, today is 24th of September, right? 24th of September 2023, I enter into a contract. Enter into a contract with X, some party X, okay? For either purchase or sale of an asset. Generally, shares, okay? For purchase or sale of shares. Not immediately, maybe say after 3 months. Purchase or sale of shares after 3 months. At a price agreed today. At a price agreed today. For exercise after 3 months. For exercise after 3 months. Okay. So I enter into a contract with another party where I tell him I will sell stocks to you. But at a price, let us agree on the price today. But the contract will derive its value only on the movement of price of the particular share. Okay. So suppose if I say that I am going to sell 100 shares. Today, I agree to sell 100 shares today, say at rupees 200 per share. On which date? After 3 months. I enter into a contract today to sell 100 shares at 200 per share after 3 months. But after 3 months, when the actual exercise date comes, on the exercise date or on the expiry date, when the stock price becomes 220 per share, when the market price at the expiry date is 220 per share, the contract will be exercised. Because by exercising the contract, the buyer is saving 20 rupees. Correct? But if after 3 months, on the expiry date, if the market price turns to be 180 per share, what will happen? what will happen? The buyer will say, instead of buying from you at 200 per share, I will buy it from the open market at 180 itself and will cancel the contract. So the contract can be exercised or it can lapse on maturity based on the movement of stock price. That is why it is told that a derivatives contract derives its value based on movement of price of the asset. If the movement of price is favorable, the contract will be exercised. If the movement of price is not favorable, the contract will lapse. That is what you call as derivatives contract. So what is happening? The seller is always at a stake. Correct? When will the buyer buy from you? Only if it is less than the market price, which means the seller is always at stake. Right? Only if he quotes a price lesser than the market price will the contract be exercised. Otherwise, the buyer will say, no, I will not buy from you. I will go and buy from the market itself. Right? So, since the seller is at stake, how is he going to be protected? Okay? The seller of the stock is at stake. Why is he at stake? Why is he at stake? Because the contract will be exercised only if the price is favorable for the buyer. Because contract will be exercised only if the price is favorable for the buyer. Okay. So, how are we going to protect the seller? There are various alternatives, various types of derivative instruments which is available. The various type of derivative instruments available are futures, options, and swaps. Various types of derivative instruments available are futures, options, and swaps. Okay. So, futures and options is dominant in a derivatives market. That is why a derivatives market is alternatively called as F&O market, futures and options market. Derivatives market is alternatively called as F&O market, which is futures and options market. So, what happens if I gave you an example that in the event of price falling down than the contracted price, he will lapse the contract and the buyer will buy from the outside market. So, instead of the buyer leaving the choice of exercise of contract to the buyer, you can enter into standardized contracts. What is futures? Futures is a type of contract. The contract is standardized. The contract is standardized. So, I gave you an example. 200 is the contracted price. 220 is the external market price. The contract will be exercised. So, the seller is protected. 200 is the contracted price. 180 is the external market price. So, what the buyer will do? The buyer will buy from the external market at 180. But because this contract is entered, he has to compensate the seller by 20 rupees. Okay, so there the contractor or the seller is protected. Okay, so the contract is standardized. So what do you mean by the contract is standardized? If I want to buy, just an example, if I want to buy 10,000 shares. Okay, if I want to buy 10,000 shares and if they say one contract is worth 100 shares, which means for 10,000 shares, how many contracts will you enter into? 100 contracts. So, it cannot be a random number. The random number of purchase or sale is not possible in futures. It is a standardized set of contracts. Based on your requirement, you can enter into as many contracts as required. The contract is standardized. Okay. Both parties are protected. Both the buyer and the seller are protected. Both buyer and seller are protected. The contract is exchange traded. It is not over the counter. It is exchange traded and it is settlement of difference between the parties. So as I told you, 180 rupees is the external market price. 200 is the contracted price. So the buyer has to compensate the seller by 20 rupees. So it is settlement of difference between parties which take place in the futures contract. Okay, so under futures contract, there are two wordings which is used. When you are going to buy futures, you don't call it as buying futures. Instead, you say go long. Buy futures is going long and sell futures is going short. These are the two terms used in futures contract. So how do you calculate the futures price? Okay, so computation of theoretical futures price. Theoretical futures price is calculated as F is equal to S naught into E raised to RT. What is S naught? S naught is the current spot price of the stock. Current spot price of the stock. R is the rate of interest. And T is the term. Okay. So you might have studied already in time value of money. A is equal to P into 1 plus R to the power of N. This formula is compound interest formula. Correct? So, whereas in futures contract or whereas in derivatives, it is exponential growth of the price. The current spot price will grow exponentially in the futures market. It is not compound growth, it is exponential growth. So, what do you mean by E raised to E means exponential growth. E means exponential growth. It is not into 1 plus R to the power of N. Instead, it is E raised to the rate of interest into T. Before that, this is the basic formula for finding the theoretical futures price. Theoretical futures price is the fair futures price for the contract. Okay. So, before proceeding further, the futures are of three categories. One is stock futures, which is for the stock market. Next is commodity futures, which is for iron and steel, precious commodities, metal, then aluminum, then silver, gold, platinum. So all that comes under commodity futures. And then you have index futures. You also have currency futures, which is not there in your syllabus. Currency futures is there for CA, not for CMA. Okay. So stock futures is with respect to shares. In case of commodity futures, it is with respect to precious metals. So what are all the precious metals? Example, iron and steel, copper, bronze, gold, zinc, etc., etc., etc. All precious metals. Index futures, when a particular stock is not traded in the futures market, and you have to protect it or hedge it with the help of the market portfolio, you call it index futures. Index is the representation of market. Index is a representation of the entire market. Okay, right. So, what under derivatives are we going to learn? We are going to learn there are three types of parties. One is an arbitrator. Next is a speculator, and the other being the hedger. Okay. Arbitrator makes riskless profits. Who is an arbitrator? Means he is a person who makes riskless profits by playing in two different markets. What are the two different markets? One is the spot market and the other is the futures market. Playing in two different markets. So, what will an arbitrator do? He will either buy spot and sell futures or sell spot and buy futures. Okay, that is an arbitrator who does not take any risk. Speculator makes profits taking risk. No, he knows there is a risk, But still he wants to take that risk and make profit. That is a speculator. Makes profits under risk. Okay. Hedger. Hedger is a person who wants to protect the value of its portfolio. Is a person who wants to protect the value of portfolio. So, you have already studied in portfolio management, the return can be negative. So, when the return becomes negative, the value of investment itself goes down. So, how do you protect your value of investment? That is what you call as hedging. Okay. So, hedging can be of two different types. One is a perfect hedge and the other being an imperfect hedge. Hedging is protecting yourself against risk. Okay. So, as a person who wants to protect the value of portfolio, which means protecting against risk. Okay. So, under hedging, you have two types of hedge. One is a perfect hedge and the other is an imperfect hedge. Under perfect hedging, 100% value of portfolio will be protected. Under imperfect hedging, only 50 to 60% of the value of portfolio will be protected. Okay, it is somewhere midway. It is to the extent the investor is worried about his investment. If he feels some part of the portfolio will not get affected because of fluctuation in market movements, only a part of portfolio will get affected by market, he can protect only that extent, leaving the other extent unprotected. That is case of imperfect hedging. Perfect hedging means 100%. Imperfect means it is not 100%. It is something lesser than 100%. Okay. Then, how do you hedge your portfolio? That hedging can be either a direct hedge or it can be a cross hedge. So, hedging can be either a direct hedge or it can be a cross hedge. Direct hedge means the particular stock is available in the futures market. You have sums in all these concepts. Okay. The particular stock is available in the futures market. Yes. This one particular chapter is worth 30 marks. 30 mark. One chapter alone. Okay. Cross hedge means the particular stock is not available in the futures market. Is not available in the futures market. And in which case, you will use index futures to hedge. Index futures will be used to hedge. Okay, well, these are all in-depth of futures. Let us do the basics today. How do you compute the theoretical futures price? Theoretical futures price can be computed as S0 into E raised to RT. This is the basic futures price. Okay, wow. This is the theoretical futures price, which is the basic formula. Suppose if it is a stock futures, what happened? Particular stock is not available in the futures market. Index futures will be used to hedge. Okay, wow. So, if suppose, let me give you an example. I have invested in stock worth rupees 100. That is my outflow for the stock. That is the current spot price. Okay, wow. 2 months later, the company is giving dividend. 2 months later, the company is giving dividend, which means you have spent 100 rupees. You have got back 10 rupees, which means your net outflow is 90 rupees. But that 10 rupees, are you receiving now or 2 months later? 2 months later, which means, should I subtract the present value of rupees 10? I have spent 100 rupees today. 2 months later, I am receiving 10 rupees. So, 100 minus 10 is my net outflow, which is supposed to grow. But that 10 I am not receiving immediately. I am receiving after 2 months only, which means 100 minus present value of 10 rupees will give you your net outflow, which is subject to growth at e raised to RT. Yes. So, if in case of stock futures, giving dividend, if it is giving me dividend, which means how much is my outflow? S0 minus present value of dividend into e raised to RT. I have spent 100 rupees. 2 months later, I am getting back 10 rupees. So, it is not immediate 10 rupees I am getting. So, that 100 minus 10, 90. No. 2 months later only. So, I have to subtract present value of 10 rupees. And only that net outflow has an exponential growth. Okay, what if the amount of dividend is not given, but the rate of dividend is given to you? Okay, if they have not given you the amount of dividend, but the rate of dividend is given to you, S0 into e raised to r minus y into t. What is r? R is the cost of capital to the company. Y is the rate of dividend. If the organization agrees to give you 10% as the rate of return, okay, that is the cost of capital to the company. But it has already given you 2% dividend, which means only net 8% will grow. I have agreed to give you 10% more. 2% I have given you by form of dividend, which means only net 8% I have to give you. I agreed to give you 10%. 2% I have already given you, which means net 8% only. So, it is e raised to r minus y into t. When will you apply this formula? When instead of present value of dividend, instead of the amount of dividend, if they give you the rate of dividend. Okay. So, if rate of dividend is given, are you able to understand? If rate of dividend is given. So, what is the condition here? R should be greater than Y. The condition here is R should be greater than Y. What if R is less than Y? When R is less than Y, you cannot apply this formula. Instead of F is equal to S0 into e raised to r minus y into t. When r is less than y, what should you do? Apply the rate of dividend on spot. On the spot price. Okay. Find present value of dividend. Then apply F is equal to S0 minus present value of dividend into e raised to RT. Are you able to get my point? The basic spot price is F is equal to S0 into e raised to RT. In case of stock futures, stock means shares. If they are giving you dividend, subtract the present value of dividend to the outflow S0 minus present value of dividend, and the net amount will grow at e raised to RT. If instead of the amount of dividend, if they have given you the rate of dividend, it is S0 into e raised to r minus y into t. But what is the condition there? R should be greater than y. If R is less than y, say suppose the rate of return is 5%, which is cost of capital to the company, and say the dividend is 6%. In which case, you cannot apply e raised to r minus y into t. Instead, you have to find y as a value. Calculate it on face value. Find the present value of it. S0 minus present value of dividend into e raised to RT. Suppose if it is confusing, don't worry, we have sums to do that. Okay, so how do you find this e raised to? There are still formulas for commodity futures. First, let us do stock futures. Okay, so how do you find the value of e raised to RT? Okay, with practice, I have one number registered in mind. E raised to 0.03 is 1.03045. This is the value. This is the answer. With practice, this number got registered in my mind. I will tell you how to find this. This R, T is 0.03. R into T is 0.03. I will tell you how to find this in a normal calculator. This number of 0.03 divide by 4096 plus 1 into equal to 12 times will give you the answer. Otherwise, you will have a table to be referred. I will even screen share that table to get you that value. Okay. So 0.03, whatever is the E value, 0.03 divide by 4096 is a constant which you have to remember. Okay. Plus 1. Then into equal to 12 times. Into equal to 12 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1.03045. Got it? So this is how you take the E value. If you do not want to remember, or if you have forgotten this sequence, I will tell you how to find the table value. Just a minute. I will take that table value and screen share. Nama? Yes, exponential growth. Enger on the table, yo ego picture. Here. Got it. Which table is this? This is area under normal curve. This is annuity factor. This is also annuity factor. This is future value. Yes. Screen share. This table will be shared to you in your WhatsApp group or in your drive or whatever. It will be shared to you. Okay, wow. E raised to 0.03 I told, right? 0.03. 0.030. 1.03045. Correct? 1.0305. What is the problem is, this table, they will not give you in the examination. This table, they will not give you in the examination. So, so, you should know how to find that value. 03045, which they have rounded off as 1.0305. You can try for any number. Just for an example, 0.078. Just try 0.078. I have screen shared the table value. Okay, wow. That number divide by 4096. What number are you getting? 0.4 times of 0. 1904296 plus 1 into equal to 12 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1.0811. Are you getting that?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you understand? So, this table value you can find easily using your normal calculator itself. Okay, wow. You can try any number for that matter. I will share this PDF also in your class group. You can find any number for that matter. That particular number divide by 4096, which is a constant you have to remember, plus 1 into equal to 12 times. Okay, wow. That's all. Now coming back to your solution. Online students, are you all following?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So, this is with respect to stock futures, where you find the present futures, basic futures price or the theoretical futures price.